Through the fog of old stories, where firelight once carved monsters onto wooden walls, another shadow wakes tonight. And if the voice you're hearing right now feels different, that's because it is. If you like this voice guiding you through the dark, let me know in the comments. And before we go any deeper, tap like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't lose this path the next time the woods call you back. Now, let's talk about a fairy tale that was never meant to be cute. You grew up with Little Red Riding Hood as a simple warning. Don't talk to strangers. Don't leave the path. But if you peel off the Disney paint and look at how Europe actually was when these stories were told, famine, disappearances, witch hunts, werewolf trials, a darker theory appears. What if this wasn't just a children's story, but a survival manual about human predators? In late medieval and early modern Europe, courts actually held werewolf trials. People weren't really turning into wolves, of course, but whole communities believed there were men who hunted like beasts, especially children and women on the road. Legal records from France, Germany, and the Low Countries describe people accused of stalking remote paths, watching who traveled alone, and using charm or familiarity to lure victims away. The courts called them wolves. Modern criminology would call them organized predators. Were these confessions tortured out of terrified people? Often, yes. Are the details completely reliable? No, but underneath the superstition, you can still see a pattern. Someone who watches, someone who gathers information, someone who uses trust as a weapon. Sound familiar? That's exactly how the wolf behaves in Little Red Riding Hood. Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Let's see how many of us are walking this digital forest together. To understand why this tale may have felt so real, you have to remember the Hunger Years. During events like the Great Famine of the 14th century, crops failed, food vanished, and even family bonds cracked under pressure. Chroniclers wrote about parents abandoning children, rumors of cannibalism, and neighbors who smiled by day and hunted by night. Whether every detail was true or exaggerated, the message was clear. In times of desperation, the real monsters weren't always in the woods. They were at the door. A girl sent alone with food through an empty forest. A strange figure waiting on the path. A friendly voice that isn't what it seems. That's not just symbolism. That's what survival looked like when law, food, and help were far away. Centuries later, in the glittering salons of Louis XIV's France, Charles Perrault took this raw, terrifying material and reshaped it for the aristocracy. He wrapped it in lace, manners, and pretty language, but he kept one thing sharp and visible: the idea of the charming predator. In his version, there is no rescue. The girl dies, the grandmother dies, and Perrault ends by warning his audience about wolves who look polite, well-dressed, and civilized, especially around young women. The brothers Grimm, collecting German tales 2 centuries later, did something different. They added the huntsman, a figure of justice, or maybe the community finally fighting back. Red and her grandmother are cut from the wolf's belly alive. Same core story, different societies, different answers to the question. When the wolf comes, do we die? Or do we fight? Modern psychology didn't exist when these tales were shaped, but the people telling them weren't stupid. They were observant. Today, criminal profilers talk about patterns. Grooming, slow, friendly conversations to lower defenses. Information gathering. Where are you going? Are you alone? Isolation. Getting the victim somewhere no one else can see. The wolf does all of this in a few lines of dialogue. Where are you going, my child? Where does your grandmother live? He doesn't growl. He doesn't chase. He asks questions. Many predators in modern case files do exactly the same thing. They pose as helpers, friends, authority figures, even family. The mask changes. The behavior doesn't. That's why some researchers think tales like Little Red Riding Hood survived for so long. They weren't just stories. They were compressed survival training, easy to remember, easy to retell. But our forest looks different now. The path isn't between trees. It's between screens. The wolf isn't waiting behind a tree trunk. He's sitting behind a profile picture. In the digital forest, social networks, games, DMs, dating apps, predators still use the same tricks, just with better tools. Fake identities instead of costumes. Profile pictures instead of grandma's clothes. Add me privately instead of come closer to the bed. They watch who looks lonely or insecure. Learn your routine through your posts. Test boundaries with jokes, secrets, or late-night messages. Slowly steer conversations toward things that feel uncomfortable, but not quite bad enough to scream for help. That moment when you feel something is off, but you don't want to overreact. That's the what big eyes you have seen, playing out again in a new form. The setting changed. The code stayed the same. So, what if Little Red Riding Hood was never about a childish fear of the dark, but about a very adult truth? The most dangerous monsters are the ones who wear familiar faces and speak softly. Medieval people didn't have hotlines, forensic labs, or online safety courses. What they did have was stories that made children remember. Don't tell strangers where you're going. Don't walk alone into isolated places. Don't ignore it when someone's behavior feels wrong, even if they seem kind. Today, digital predators exploit the same weaknesses: our need to be seen, loved, understood, chosen. They hide behind cute avatars, fake support, and I get you like nobody else. But the old tale still whispers the same warning. If someone is rushing your trust, asking for secrecy, trying to separate you from others, it doesn't matter how friendly they sound. You're not talking to grandma, you're talking to the wolf. If this journey through the darker side of Little Red Riding Hood made you look at the story differently, don't just vanish back into the trees. Hit like so this video reaches more people. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next time we dissect the shadows hiding inside innocent tales. And in the comments, tell me, where are you watching from and how deep is the night where you are right now? The forest is still dark. The predators have new masks, but as long as we keep telling the stories and really listening to what they're trying to teach us, we're not walking this path alone.